Okay, welcome back. Sit tight. Well, I'm trying to do three things at once here. I think we've got Yoshi on the line. Are you there, Yoshi?
Yeah, we finally made it connect, yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Anyway, all right.
Okay, Todd, listen up. I'm going to send you Dana Durnford's other number. We're going to try and bring him on, so I'm going to email you the number right now, so please call him immediately, and let's try and get him on. We're looking forward to that, so hopefully we can. I'm sending it right this second, and if you don't receive it in 30 seconds, let me know. But that should be a number that rings through to him. As you know, Dana and I think three others, I think Terry Daniels went with him again, are in a 24-foot Zodiac, and they've headed off on their second expedition north. He's actually going to try and go all the way to Alaska, up the British Columbia coast, to check on the tide pool activity down low. Now, let me say one other thing, Yoshi. Hang on just a sec. I have received a couple of emails from people. One of them was a video, and it showed tide pool life in, I believe, California. There is tide pool life in near the Puget Sound. Well, Puget. But the one from California, the person who sent it was kind of mocking the fact that we have been predicting for 3.5 years what would happen to life along the coast of California, and every possible marker that we have cited has come to pass. We have never said that the entire coast, that every area, every tide pool would be wiped out of life immediately. We think it's going to take time. It'll take probably years. No one knows for sure, because the Pacific Current curves down and stays offshore a little bit. It takes time for it to move onshore. Now remember, these are lower life forms, so they're not high on the food chain, and it takes them longer to show the effects of radioactivity. Unlike the orcas, which are now reported to be emaciated and dying by scientists who study them. They are in real decline. This is not a joke. So you folks who have tide pool life, bless you, enjoy it. Let's hope it lasts. We don't want it to die any more than you do. But we're telling you what we're finding. You do with it what you will. That's up to you. But don't mock me, and don't mock Dana Durnford or anyone else who's out putting their ass on the line to try to bring you the truth. All right? Let's get that straight. Happy to see submissions from you. Happy to hear that you do have tide pool life. I'd like to see you explain the sea lions washing up on shore in hideous convulsions that upon necropsy show organs misplaced, massive amounts of pus, horrible inside damage. Where did that come from? And this is happening all up and down the coast of California. These are animals at the top of the food chain that eat the most radioactive, bioaccumulative radioactive organisms for food that they can find. They are showing massive radiation poisoning and death. All right. So I just wanted to get that on the table. All right. I hope I'm clear. Yoshi, we're trying to get Dana right now. How are you?
Good.
All right. I'm glad to hear it. Did I sum that up enough?
You did, Jeff. Thank you. I wasn't sure you were talking to me that time. I kind of jumped in on you. I was really enjoying it because you did nail it right on the nose. What we're looking at, folks, is if you're going to look at the damage to an ecosystem, you don't look at the top of the food chain, and well, unless it's whales, because they are actually the top of it, and they're going to bioaccumulate it and get effects pretty quick, and we see that now. But the filter feeders in the tide pool, the nursery of the ocean, that's where everybody should be looking. So why were scientists focusing in on tuna? Why were they focusing in on big fish? Obviously, how did they get a degree to go about it that way? Anybody would agree, you would think, would go into the filter feeders. We've seen an amazing couple of days here. We finally got in the water. Jeff, it's really shocking. What we've seen less species up in this area.
Okay, hold on, Dana, just a second. I'm going to make sure Yoshi, can you hear Dana all right?
Yeah, I'm definitely listening in with great interest here. Keep going.
All right, good. Now, for you folks who are new to this, Dana and Terry made a 9-day trip, 200 kilometers up to British Columbia coast on the inside of Vancouver Island. They have since gotten all kinds of wonderful donations. They are in a Zodiac, and they are going to move north. Hopefully, they would like to get to Alaska at some point, but they are reporting every Monday on this program what they're seeing. Dana, go ahead. Tell me what you're seeing.
It was shocking. Well, first off, the boys had an unusual day. They got buzzed by drones for about a half an hour, no windows.
Oh, really?
The pictures we took of it all came out pure white, which was really interesting.
Wait a minute. Whoa. You took pictures of the drones and they didn't come out?
And they come out white. Yeah, just a white blink. It was the darndest thing imaginable. So they probably got hit with something, I would imagine.
On more than one camera?
No, that was just the one camera who was taking the pictures.
Okay.
The boys were on the beach, I guess, and it's just a really odd story for these guys because they're not bloggers, they're not up on the internet at all, none of them. Sure. And so they described it as a plane with no windows. So I was like, that's a drone. I can't prove it because I got no pictures. But I thought that was interesting. We've seen an emaciated seal today, and we got some pictures of that. I'm uploading pictures onto the nuclearproctologist.org as we talk here right now. I'm onto the second set. I uploaded Jason's shots. He had 122. His camera has a microscope function, and so he's got some really unique pictures of it too. And tomorrow we'll be in Victoria, where we're going to use the microscope and with video at the same time, and we'll upload that onto the site. But we also never seen, like any birds dropping anything on the shoreline at low tide. There was no activity. There was no animals coming down to the low tide to lick the salt off the rocks, which is what you expect to see a lot of the times. But really surprising was we found a seal of bull kelp. And the bull kelp, we pulled up alongside of it because that was unusual. We hadn't seen any in the whole travel in the last few days. So we pulled up alongside of it, and somebody had collected bull kelp and started tying it together. So it looks like a little kelp forest there. That was on Salt Spring Island. I thought that was really unique. I don't understand it, but
that's weird.
And we're going to be uploading them. Yeah, that was bizarre land. And, of course, we're down here in a field, and there's little or no insects whatsoever for the last couple of days we've been here. A couple of other parks that we pulled into was the same thing. It's it's just surreal to go out on this coastline in this pristine area. I mean, there's $500 million worth of homes on these islands we were at today. We covered 6 islands, and there was nothing on the shoreline, only this kelp that it's got the wrong color, but, it looks like kelp lettuce, but it's got completely wrong color. And it had no attachments whatsoever. And the bull kelp we did find, we couldn't pull it off the bottom, Jeff. And so what bull kelp works like is like 50 feet long and usually attaches to a rock. And I used to work in it every day, day after day, 315 days a year on the ocean floor working in that stuff. So I'm very familiar. So I decided, I'm going to pull up one of those bull kelps to check the rock and see if we can get some close-up shots. We couldn't get it off the bottom. And bull kelp doesn't attach. It always attaches itself to small rocks so it can move around a bit, I guess.
That's very, very odd, too.
Yeah, that was really, I've never seen that in all my travels, 14 years as a commercial diver, hardcore, not counting everything else I was doing as a diver, but that was hardcore, like really hardcore, and I never seen that. So I don't know what to make of it outside of, there could be somebody there was trying to make the place look like it's a normal environment, I guess, or something like that. Obviously, why else would you do something like that?
That is really completely over the top weird. I don't get that. That is really strange.
That was weird.
I put a story up yesterday. Reports from California show California sea lions. Now, I've had a number of reports of this. They'll be found on shore in horrible seizures, and then they die. And on necropsy, they found that their organs were actually falling out of place inside their bodies. They had large tumors all over the place, enormous accumulations of pus in their bodies, indicating a destroyed immune system, enormous immunological dysfunction, infection, tumors, all reflective of no immune system. This is what we're seeing here. There were whales have been washed up, I guess 2 at least. The sea lions, as we mentioned, are eating fish, bigger fish. and things that are higher up the food chain, so they concentrate more quickly. The top animals are the ones that are going to show up the quickest. So go ahead, tell us more.
Right, and that's like I've talked to a lot of locals around here, of course, and they're talking about salmon runs and stuff like this. But they're just regurgitating what they're hearing in the media, and once I pin them back a little bit, they start to open their eyes up, and I show them what's really going on, and they start to realize that there's something else going on here. They really can't, that's the problem with what we're doing is we can't really interview people because you can't talk to people that have been indoctrinated through the
right. No, there's
the
a wall.
machine. Right?
There's a wall up. The door is shut. It's almost impossible to get through to them.
It's really hard. But I mean, so we don't even bother trying, and that's too bad. That's the point of what we're doing. We'll get better at this over the next couple of weeks, and we'll find another way to approach them. If you can
find, as you well know, some commercial fishermen and talk to enough of them and ask them, are things normal? Just that, you do what you do. Are things normal? Anything out of the ordinary? See if anybody says anything. Don't even tell them what's going on. Just say, I'm a commercial fisherman too. Are you noticing anything weird? I mean, that 1% of the sockeye returning in one report, and then those that did return, 50% of them having lesions on the outside of their bodies, 80% of the king salmon last year not coming back, and then many of the small fish that were actually hatched in the creeks going back out to the ocean being found dead floating on the water.
We see very, very little. We're shocked at what we found up in this end because we expect this end where we're closer to the point of the open ocean. We'll be on that tomorrow already in Victoria. We're taking Victoria tomorrow for the entire day. Bright and early we'll be down to catch the entire tide. And because we got a lot of people attacking us, they're from Victoria, the University of Victoria.
How so?
Cullen and their
how
crew
so?
are coming after us.
How so?
Well, they've been hammering us on the internet with pictures and videos from Victoria claiming there's just an amazing amount of sea life down there. And we're right alongside of them. We ain't finding anything. So by tomorrow, we're going to put an end to that nonsense because we know it's not there. But so they could be using pictures and videos from years ago, and there's no proof of it. They hide away. They don't show their faces. But they're using that to try to marginalize what we're doing. And, of course, that's not going to work because we're just going to snowball right through it all. We don't need any offense to anybody. We're just going to look in, we're going to document it, and put the pictures up and let everybody make up their own minds. And, of course, there's supposed to be 5,600 species. You would expect to find, say, 25% of them anywhere you go, at least. Even in harbors, you would expect to find around 25%. That's a reasonable expectation.
Right.
But when you're out here in the middle of nowhere on the coastline and all these beautiful, that are acclaimed to be the most prestigious, perfect, unscattered life on the coastline, and we go there and there's only 5 or 6 species this time is really shocking. So that they don't seem to realize it or not willing to admit it, but it's hard to ignore it when we're taking all these pictures and hitting all these places. I mean, that's 120 miles in 2 days we covered on the ocean in the islands. I mean, that's big volume,
Right. Okay. Looks like we lost Yoshi again.
We're sorry.
We'll get him back.
Sure.
120 miles you've covered already?
Right in 2 days. So we're
Right.
just starting. We had a lot of breakdowns with the equipment. It was hard to set up the radar and the sounder, the plotter, the GPS. We had to hook up everything. It was quite an ordeal for 5 days getting that all.
What I want to know is who's running these. Are these hovering drones, or were they making like aviation passes back and forth over you?
Yeah, they didn't make any noises either. And it was hard to say, but I mean, it was obvious that that's what they were up to.
Did they have wings, or were they the 4-rotor type that hover?
No, they had wings, yeah. They had wings. Well, there was an argument whether they were planes or whether they were this or whether they were that. Not big arguments, but just trying to debate it out. So we went to the pictures, and none of them came out. And so I was shocked when I seen that. Of course, my lights went up right away that the pictures didn't show up. I assumed it right away. They got tapped. There's a military bases all around us on top of that. That ain't going to slow us down. We're not doing anything wrong. It's totally legal to go out there and take pictures. And so the whole problem was Nobody wants to go into the tidal pools themselves. They all want to look at the whales, like, as you know. They want to look at these other things, but now they don't even want to look at the whales no more because the population has dropped. They stopped singing here in British Columbia last year. That's the main headline. They also haven't produced any babies, but I hear there was a baby today, but I don't know if it's true or not.
These are gray whales?
Any babies. No, this was a killer whales.
Oh, yeah, the orcas, yeah.
Yeah, and we haven't seen any kind, like the population is now dropping dramatically. And like you were saying there before you introduced me, was that the whales are being emaciated. That's what's emitted in the last 24, 48 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the headlines up on your side.
Yeah.
I finally got an internet connection. I checked it out. I haven't been able to keep up with it because I got to upload these pictures. We don't have a good connection. And so it's slowly getting up to it, thank goodness. And tomorrow we'll be uploading the next day load and then the day after that. So 3 days load going up into the nuclearproctologist.org, and then we'll move up the coastline, and we're going to go up to Banfield. And there's a big research station there, and they get millions of dollars a year, and we're going to go up and do that whole area because obviously they didn't, see? And, you know, we'll just keep going up.
No, isn't that funny? They wouldn't walk out and take pictures of their own damn shoreline area?
They're right there. Yeah, they're right in that, probably one of the most prestigious places you can be up and there on the west coast of Vancouver Island. It's really a rough coastline. Of course, the Zodiac we got is Coast Guard grade. It's self-righting. It's got a Kevlar bottom. We got all the bells and whistles on it, and there's nothing's going to stop it. Nothing's going to slow it down. We'll go every day from here on out. Got all the kinks out of it. And I would imagine by 30 days, you'll be vindicated, Yoshi will be vindicated, and everybody else out there that have really pushed to get this out there. And once again, I mean, Jeff Palco, the original Punisher, he hasn't stopped trying to support us. He doesn't stop. He's the backbone behind us. Besides the Hounds of Fukushima, we really, truly are so appreciated that somebody stepped up. Just a normal person and made all the difference.
You people who are supporting Dana are heroes, and I thank you on behalf of all people of all countries who appreciate what you've done. This is just extraordinary.
Well, you got to say, I'm not going to let us stop. Yeah.
No. Well, we got the right. You talk about true grit and bravery and dedication, and that's Dana and his mates. They're out there doing. Look, it just goes back to the same thing every time. How many news conferences have you heard the EPA hold for all of us to tell us honestly what's going on? Zero. How many will you? Zero. You won't find any.
I got none in my collection. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, there's none. Nor will there be.
None in my collection, not one.
Now, the other thing, the insects. This is a true story. We have one of our radiation stations is up there on the Puget Sound, actually at the bottom of the Straits of Juan de Fuca, and he is apparently in the aviation business. I won't go any further than that, but has a friend who's in his 70s, retired military general, who got I guess a vintage Piper Cub and flew it up from Southern California. Just had a wonderful trip, stopped 2-3 times to fuel up and so forth. And when he got there, he took this fellow who wrote to me around the plane, and he took him to the front, and he said, "No bugs.
Wow.
Something's wrong.
Just wow.
No bugs." And that
really
was a big story. This is a military general, folks, not a joke. I did my porch light thing again, turned it on for over an hour, and I went and looked, and it should be swarming with insects.
Right.
One little tiny bug was flying around the light. That's it.
Wow.
That's the second time I've done that. So, look, folks, look at the front of your cars. Look at your windshield. How many bug splats are there? Look at your grill. Look at your headlights.
Right.
You've seen it before.
None on ours.
Yeah.
Not one.
Yeah.
The boys did get hit by one bee, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah. We had a report. Was it you that got the report? I think it was from somebody in Mississippi or somewhere in the. Right. Tell me about that.
There was a lady and her husband. Yeah, the lady and her husband contacted me about a week and a half ago. They had been watching the presentation of the 9 days on the shoreline with the low tides, And so they decided an experiment. You okay, Terry? They decided, he tripped up on the stuff. They decided that they were going to check their grill when they got home. They drove 1,500 miles to Mississippi, and these are farmers. They got all kinds of animals. They're used to cleaning their car after the trip back from their family all the time, full of insects. It's a chore her husband usually does in the mornings, the next morning. And there was nothing there. They pulled into a Walmart parking lot on the way home because after 1,500 miles and we'd gone away, they were going to stack up on some stuff. And they walked down to the parking lot, and there was nothing on those vehicles. And they were stunned and shocked. And they actually phoned me up when they got home and told me because they understood the significance of what had happened. They didn't know up to that point anything, but they cut the presentation, totally naive, and checked it when they got home, and they were shocked. They said, no, that's not possible. And I agree with them. I can't even imagine that.
No, I just boggles my mind. Yoshi, are you back online?
Yeah, I just missed a couple of minutes of it.
Okay, good. Yeah, go ahead. It's your turn.
Yeah, so no problem. Yeah, well, good to hear you're okay up there, Dana. I'm a bit shocked, taken aback by these people at Vancouver, who supposedly with the university, you say? Excuse me, not Victoria. They were with the university?
Right, the University of Victoria. We've been battling them now for a long time.
Do people identify themselves? Are they hiding behind anonymity? Do they identify themselves?
No, they're not identifying themselves, but I mean, the rhetoric that's coming out of them is emblematic of that particular crew, but they are down on that shoreline trying to debunk me on purpose. And
okay. Well, I hope they step forward with, if they are sincere, they should tell us who they are. We're happy to, I'm sure you're happy to go down to the beach with them and to the tide pool.
Yeah, you can come out on the boat.
I mean, certainly would be great news, right? If the tide pools are fine there, that would be wonderful. We'd be overjoyed.
We're going to go check it out.
They have nothing to fear from us. Yeah, right?
Right.
No, this is a bunch of crap hiding behind no name. Stand up, be a man, be a woman. Let's get this out on the table.
In other words, these people possibly could be involved in disinformation. They could, or just pathological liars.
That's true.
Maybe, huh? Yeah. Or just a bunch of kids doing a prank. Is that the level that we're talking about here?
It doesn't seem. No, it doesn't seem. It seems very educational. They seem like they're very articulate. They don't seem like they're your typical just person who's lashing out at me. They're definitely articulate. They definitely have a plan, and they have money too. And once again, the University of Victoria.
Well, this is something we need to investigate. Who does have the interest? Who would pay the kind of money it takes for something like this? Let's find out who these folks are. I think we should do a web search for them and ask folks around the university, because it would be good to out these people. Get them out front. Appear with them on stage. In theater, and they show their stuff and show our stuff. That'll be great. Let the public decide who's being honest. Huh?
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway, we got to deal with these sort of people because they really are trying to create obstacles in the path of what the public really needs to know, and they're trying to slow down any effort of the public to protect their children, their pets, whatever, their gardens from what's happening out there. And we're not trying to alarm people. We're trying to give them fair warning that you've got to start taking protective measures. That's all.
Yoshi.
That's why we love you, Yoshi, because you're a smart man. Go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Yoshi, be careful. Don't bump that phone on your chin. I can hear the keys getting touched. Yeah, there you go. We hear you loud and clear. No problem. The other thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if you heard this or not, but they had a winged drone overfly them, and they tried to take some digital pictures of it, and the pictures were all white. So they got beamed back, and the camera was whited out. So
electromagnetic interference. Very, very interesting. They got some sort of electromagnetic field. So this is high-level stuff. We're talking about intelligence services involved in this. Instead of attending to more dangerous things, terrorism and so on, they're dealing with your rubber craft out there. Quite amazing how far governments will go. And what is the reason? I know Canada is a major exporter of uranium to Japan. The world's largest uranium mine, called Cigar Lake, is owned by Hitachi and Toshiba, along with Canadian companies. So there's a huge vested interest there in uranium exports. Other than that, I don't know what else Canada would have, as of, an economic interest in defending the nuclear industry.
Now,
there's 25 nuclear plants. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Yoshi, Dana's already, I don't know if you've heard this.
That's what I want to hear from Dana. I'm not aware of the nuclear situation. There's 25 nuclear plants there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah. They're
okay.
huge.
Well, that would maybe explain why the government has a huge interest, Glenn, in, maintaining surveillance on you from telling the truth about what's happening in the ocean.
We don't even look over our shoulder.
Governments have to waste their time and money doing that, when they should be the ones in charge of doing the research for the public.
Well, we all know that hasn't happened for 3.5 years. It's not going to start now. What's going to happen, though, within a year or two, there may not be any more killer whale orcas left, and they're going to have some explaining to do then. Well, what the hell happened to them all?
I can't imagine how there can be. Well, if we don't stop Fukushima, there's definitely not, there's not going to be none anyway. Even if we stop Fukushima last year, there's still not going to be none left because there's 1,440 plumes a day coming out of that place.
It's not going to happen. It's done deal. They're eating these seals that are just radioactive capsules, is what they are, and they're going to die.
They should be on a nuclear waste site, all of them. We need to.
Absolutely.
We've seen a big dead, I can't even remember now the pictures, I just uploaded them, a big manta ray, and we couldn't get at it. Now we got underwater cameras, we're going to try them tomorrow, and we think that's going to be work really well for us. We also got some microscopes in the next few days we'll have them, and so we'll be taking the water samples and the beach samples, and right now, because we're on such a small budget, we want to keep going. We're not going to expand ourselves too hard. We're just going to go every day out there and get what we can. There's no limit on where we're going. But, as the time comes on, over the next week, we'll get up to speed on everything. Right now, it's been a pretty rough ride for everybody. Today was really cold.
This is what I was trying to say last time. It's very difficult for people to appreciate how difficult it is from getting from point A to B in some difficult terrain and still trying to collect samples and do measurements. By no means easy. And then, maybe working on a gear that you're not too familiar with. It's really a task that is very frustrating and tiring, actually. But I have a question for you, Dana. At nighttime, have you seen any bioluminescent plankton on the water? Does the water glow or is it pitch black?
It's really dark. And we got a daylight system. We'll be going out soon. We just got it all set up. And so the idea was to go out at low tide on the night times and catch the tidal flats, see if we can find the animals, see if we can find... we don't smell much. Yesterday we smelled a little tiny bit, but there was nothing there. We did see some...
We may have lost Dana. You there, Yoshi?
Yeah, let's try to get him again. Yeah.
We'll try and call him back. I mentioned at the beginning of the program, as you heard, people have been sending in just a couple, saying, look at the dead tide pools here, and they're showing pictures of life in the tide pools. Hey, that's all great. That's wonderful. The whole coast isn't dead. It's going to take a long time. That's a massive coastline. And I think this was in California, if I'm not mistaken. And remember, this comes over in pockets and cells, all right? It takes time. It takes a concentration. A cell can move through and be gone, and the life can hang on. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to die. But up in British Columbia, that's where the North Pacific Current makes landfall, pretty much right near Vancouver Island, in point of fact. And it splits there. Some goes down the coast, some goes up into the Gulf of Alaska, and around it goes. It's got nowhere to go. So we'll see. This is all going to take time. I think Dana's back now. Are you there, Dana?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we lost you there for a couple of minutes, but I was just mentioning to Yoshi about how some people are going out and seeing life in tide pools, and that's wonderful. We're not opposed to that. The more, the better.
We want to check it out ourselves, though.
That's right. It does need to be checked, and it will be checked. This is further down California. And we're going to find out the further north he goes, because half of that Pacific current or thereabouts goes up north, loops right up where they're going to be going and into the Gulf of Alaska and around and around. And that's why last year some of the salmon fishermen said, we're not getting any support from the government. We're going to pay for our own radioactive analyses of some of the fish we're catching. And they found out that the rates were way too high. And then what happened? 80% of the king salmon didn't show up. 1% of the sockeye early this season didn't show up. Those that did, half of them have lesions on their body. And the one fisherman said they make one dive to the bottom, and then they give up, and it's like reeling in a wet sock. No energy.
Wow. I know my kid was finding tumors this summer on some of the salmon, and that was surprising. And he was mentioning how fishers were coming up to test it for radiation, test the milking for radiation. It's just a big whitewash when you do that, of course. We got the Geiger counters, we're getting better at that, and we don't consider that, we'll do it anyway, but it's not the same as looking at the species that are missing. It's kind of like going in and trying to get a picture of somebody that committed a crime after they left, in one sense to me. The radiations are going to be right across the board anyway. We'll always find the extra radiation. Of course, if people are not familiar with this, the apologists in the nuclear industry will describe it as it's equal to a banana.
No.
Oh, you're breaking up.
That's a complete fraud. All you have to do is do a search for a banana radiation fraud and look and start reading. It's all explained.
It's homeostasis. Yeah, it's homeostasis. Right. Your body regulates it. Your body can't get any more potassium-40. And, of course, potassium-40 got nothing to do with ionized man-made elements. These elements are not going to be found on the sun. You won't find them on the moon. The sun creates the elements. We destroy them. And we created an element on this planet that nothing can coexist with. There's nothing on the planet. And if everybody don't really understand the significance of what I'm talking about, I'll explain it this way. If you take a glass of salt water into the ocean, it has 75 to 100 million phytoplankton. The phytoplankton are the bases of the food chain and the bases of the oxygen chain. And what happens is if you were to, and there's another billion creatures in that glass of water, and if you drop the radioactive element in there, it will cook all of them in over a period of time. But it won't lose its life in that period of time. You can continue to do that glass of water after glass of water with a single element. And in Fukushima, in a single reactor, we're looking at 3,450 assemblies. There's approximately 80 rods in each assembly. Each rod is around 18 pounds. Now, each gram is equal to all the grains of sands on the beaches in radioactive atoms. And so when you release that into the ocean and into the environment, we can see why the phytoplankton will disappear. We can see why everything else in the feeders and the filter feeders and then the nursery of the ocean will disappear so quick. It's such a big dose to give to them. Of course, the disposition on the west side of the Rockies comes to the Pacific, and on the east will go to the Atlantic. And so within a couple of months, we think the die-off happened originally, but after 130 days, the first plume hit the coastline, and every day behind that, 129 days behind that, was another plume. And that never stopped even, and it won't stop, of course, anywhere, as you know.
Well, as Dr. Helen Caldecott said, it is an eternal threat to humanity. Eternal. All right, hold on a sec. We got to take a break. We'll come right back in just 3 minutes, so stay tuned. Whether your alleged government has told you or not, America has been receiving nearly non-stop airborne radiation in one form or another from Fukushima for 3 years in March. And now, with the radioactive polluted mass of the Pacific Ocean about to hit the entire West Coast, you must prepare yourself. The tragedy of Chernobyl resulted in the development of one of the most potent fighters of radiation poisoning known. It's called BioAge Superfood, a blend of the 4 most powerful immune-building, radiation-protecting, Chernobyl-proven algae on the planet. Grown in Kamchatka and imported to the U.S., I have taken BioAge Superfood for nearly 3 years and would never be without it. Go to bioage.com, mention Rents, and get 10% off this essential immune-building product. That's bioage.com, and mention Rents for a 10% discount. bioage.com.
You have been chosen, yes, you, to discover for yourself what thousands have already experienced, the most life-changing health product in the world. It's called Royal Velvet, and there's nothing else like it. Royal Velvet users testify to receiving hundreds of benefits, from reversing the effects of aging to mental clarity, as well as noticeably improved sleep, energy, libido, overall health, and so much more, including saving lots of money. This is the real deal, that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that you will regret if you don't act upon it. Honestly, there is an extremely limited amount of raw material, making it available only to a select few, a very select few. So find out why you have been chosen. Go to RoyalVelvetNow.com, click on the rinse icon in the upper right-hand corner for an incredible surprise. Oh yeah, if you place your order before we run out of them, you will receive the eye-popping but simple-to-read book that tells you how to live in divine health, and it's free. RoyalVelvetNow.com.
Dr. Joe Schneller.
The efficacy that we're looking for, that we're going to prove, is that carnivora wakes up this immune system and makes it dominant.
I highly recommend that you get started right away using Carnivora because it really will help you. Just follow the directions as the company gives them to you. And I just want everybody to know that there's been no one paid to do this. I'm doing this on my own because I care about everybody and want to see healthy people.
My husband has recovered tremendously after the physician suggested that he start taking Carnivora. When he was doing so well, I decided to start taking it as well, and we're both so pleased to be able to feel healthy again.
Hello, folks. Richard Ostro of Carnivora Research International here. Visit carnivora.com or call 1-866-VENUS-FLY. That's carnivora.com or 1-866-VENUS-FLY. Call us today.
Okay, let's get right back to our program here. Dana, thank you for the report. We'll talk to you next Monday. Anything you want to leave us with? Be careful up there, obviously. I don't like this drone idea, but you should be protected by the goodness of this planet and the people who care. So,
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. No, we still need support to get us through. We're good for another week or two, but then we'll need support to get us the rest of the way. Everything is working. Got the kinks of everything. Everything is rebuilt. Everything else is brand new. We're good to go. We don't need anything extra. We just got to cover the trip, and that's not going to be an issue. Like you say, once again, I always got to beg to get it done until it's done. Everything we got, we're returning to the people that gave it to us. Anybody that gave us equipment, we'll be sending it back to them. And so it's all about getting the data. That's all we're interested in. Once that's out there, we can have a debate. And, of course,
right.
You know, it's people like yourself and Yoshi that hasn't stopped, keeps on top of it all the time, don't muddle the water, and sticks to it like you do. That, you know, we enjoy it listening to you because we don't have to worry about it. We know we're going to get all the facts every time. So it's really cool to see you guys doing it.
You're covered from our end, I'll tell you that. So you just take care. And
I will so.
We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Good night, Yoshi.
Good luck. Good luck there. Keep going. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. I will, sir. Thank you. Good night, boys.
Good night. Okay. They're very courageous, brave men. This idea of overflying them with a drone is
that's too much.
That's just despicable.
This is ridiculous. As the Canadian government have nothing better to do. I mean, this is, and what purpose do they expect? What do they have to gain from that? Nothing. It's paranoia and a waste of Canadian taxpayers' dollars is what it is. When relief work should be going on in that area, helping communities. Maybe some of the people in those communities are legitimately upset because their livelihoods are threatened. And that's where the government should be helping them out. You have to make some adjustments here if, in fact, the whole area is dying out along the seashore. A lot of people who make their living there got to be helped, either moved away if they want to continue that business or do something else there, and to take the proper protection. That's the role of government.
That's right.
You have to remind the officials that's your role. That's what you're supposed to do. I think the term is called your public servant or a civil service. Your idea is to serve the people who are paying you very well for the work that you're supposed to be doing. And,
exactly.
We have to remind governments all the time that's their job, not to snoop, to spy, and harass their citizens. They're only out there doing the public welfare and the public good. And we just don't have to, I think, emphasize that every time we turn, because governments have forgotten what their mission is and what their duty is.
They've been taken over, Yochi, as you know. They're not our government anymore. They're representing the corporatocracy and the globalists who run the world now. And it's no longer a republic, a democracy, or anything of a representative nature at all. It's just a sideshow. It's a lie. It's ugly, and it's not nice, not at all.
Well, this is what we're finding out in the research we're doing. Whether it's radiation issues or closer to my own, area of study. Which was organic chemistry, biochemistry, biology, the Ebola issue. Governments are really the problem here. They're not helping us with solutions. They're making the problems worse. They're spending billions of dollars to make these pathologies even worse and harming the public more and destroying the economy. It makes no sense. The globalists want their power, but it doesn't make sense. They themselves are destroying the resource base on which they depend. They feed on that very same ocean as the rest of us do, and they don't seem to understand, that in the end they're going to get wiped out completely, and they'll be too late then. They'll be too late. Yeah.
Now you're working on a new paper on the Ebola epidemic that is sweeping through West Africa. You might give us.
Let's not get. I don't want to discuss it too much because then again I'll have more than drones coming after me. We're getting very close to identifying the prime suspect. I've gone through the list of every program, every nation state that supports an Ebola research program, basically biowarfare project.
I'm sure it is. Yep.
But in the process, we're able, let's say, to put people to a lesser degree of guilt versus those with a larger degree of guilt, and therefore, the suspects are sort of like filtering out to the uppermost. It's a very interesting story, so it'll be coming out soon, if I don't get popped off by a drone, Amazing, The extent that these people go through.
It is truly amazing. What's the media
the other issue?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other science issue is this. You discussed this domoic acid. That there's, the conjecture there is that the Pacific marine life still-off has to do with domoic acid.
Yeah, let me hold on. Let me restate this. You're a little bit fuzzy with that. I think I heard you. The government is attempting to hide or explain away the massive sea life death along the West Coast as having come from an algae bloom which produced domoic acid. That's what Yochi's talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is a toxic product from the red tide algae. And as you know, red tides are caused by enormous amounts of nutrients that are flushed into the seawater, let's say either from farm sewage or from sewage, mainly from urban sewage, but farm runoff as well. So we have these algae blooms. But what's interesting, they're claiming that all the sardines, herrings, and all are dying because of domoic acid. But we're in a historical low period, we're reaching historical lows for the presence of red tides in the ocean off the west coast of America. You know, I mean, there's hardly any untreated sewage. Even in Mexico, they're treating more and more of the sewage. So this doesn't make sense. How come everything didn't die in the past in such a massive kill-off? One question. The other issue is that the last big red tide event off the United States coastline on the Pacific was in San Diego in September 2011. Okay? So there hasn't been an incident since then. Last year in Puget Sound, there were red algae, but the Department of Ecology of Washington State said, well, this is a different kind of algae. It's definitely not red tide algae. I forget the name. It's something like neolunic. It's a specific type of algae, which is not photosynthetic, doesn't make this kind of toxin, so it's a completely harmless one. So therefore, there's no substantive base for that much domoic acid in the ocean. It's a total lie from the government, and I'd like to see the government's research. I mean, they spin off these statements, well, show us the data, show us where you took the data, and so on and so forth, because San Diego, and the date's interesting there. You know, San Diego, September 2011. You know, that's like just right after 3/11, right?
Yep.
And there was a big red tide.
Yep.
You could see it crashing onto the coast of San Diego and turning blue, you know, phosphorescent blue. But then again, it disappeared after that, didn't return.
Yeah.
Very possibly, that algae, that red tide, absorbed a lot of cesium. Okay, it sucked it up, thinking it was phosphorus or potassium, and got killed off. You know, I think that's what happened. But that would not account for why the kill-offs were seen much, much later. You know, it should have happened in the next year, in 2012. But the kill-offs we've seen have really intensified from last year, haven't they? You know, all the sea lions and all that. So, it doesn't add up. You know, the timing of that event does not add up. So obviously, again, from the government, we like to show us your data. You know, show us your data. You know, back up your statements with facts. You know, I mean, let's take a scientific approach. You put your facts on the table. We put our facts on the table. We see who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth. And I think domoic acid, that theory basically, you know, it can go out the window. It's not valid. And government agencies are figuring that out. Really should be ashamed of themselves.
They should. I agree. It's laughable, really. It's absurd, and that's just
yes, it's absurd. Really, I mean, the thing is, they're really stretching it. Why do they have to stretch it so far? I mean, you know, this shows a kind of desperation in the air, and we should be alarmed of that. If the government is going to tell us, you know, the sky is below your feet and the ground is above your head, this is desperation, you know, and why would they tell us total nonsense unless they're running scared? And what are they scared of? Why are they scared? If they're in control, can't they do something? If they can't do something, they better bring in the help and the advice, hold some public hearings and find out who can do something, who knows how to do something.
We are weeks away from the beginning of the rainy season, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens this year if they continue the drought. I had another story yesterday, 2 stories this last week, Yoshi. One said it predicted, and you know this, a 30-year drought, and the other story just today, I think it was, predicted a 10-year drought for the Southwest. So I think we know what to expect. They're going to keep the bridge up and not let the storms come through unless they're subtropical, and then they'll pull up. And there's no El Nino, so forget that. They're just going to hope that some of these come up to wet the place down a little bit with water that's not obviously radioactive.
Well, the problem is I think they're finding out that the water from the south is radioactive because the California current works its way down there.
Yep.
A lot of tropical storms are developed there. One just went through Mexico and hit Phoenix, Arizona. And I really think people in Arizona and Phoenix better get their dosimeters out and find out in the aftermath how much radiation came in.
If you have, and any of you folks in Phoenix, if you've got an Inspector Plus or a Geiger counter and you collected any rainwater, even if you go out and measure the ground under the downspout on the side of your house, as opposed to the ground, say 20 feet away, see if there's not a big difference in the background readings of radiation you get. I think you might be very surprised. And let us know. Yoichi, thank you. Take care. I'll be here if you need anything.
Very good, then. All right. We'll be in contact, then.
Okay. Yoichi Shimatsu, former Japan Times weekend editor, one of the world's leading environmental researchers and writers without question, and is working on another installment in his Ebola series of papers. You can find all of his writings on the left side at Rents. Just look for Yoichi Shimatsu and you'll find all of his writings. Wow. Okay, there's 3 hours for you, and we'll be back tomorrow night. Take care.
In 2007, one man, Mike Dillard, made 5 predictions which forecasted the 2008 economic crisis and the pending Eurozone collapse. 3 brand new, shocking, must-watch videos with predictions for the coming year. www.the3videos.com. Over the past year, Mike Dillard has helped thousands of ordinary people create and recover wealth by tapping into the black box investing strategies the big banks don't want you to know about. www.the3videos.com. As the European banking system implodes and governments collapse at breakneck speeds, the